Good morning YouTube, and welcome back to a wet and windy morning in the UK. We're in today's video on project E92 M3. We're going to be installing Apple CarPlay, and not just a cheap Android unit. Before any of you in the comments get going, this is a proper fibre optic system so that we can retain that incredible Harman Kardon sound quality that comes with the car as factory. So this video we're going to go through the unit you're going to need, how to fit it, how to set it up, and obviously what it's like to use. I'll put a link in the description to Liam Biggs, who supplies these kits in the UK. Everything will be in the description for where you need to go and get yourself one. In the warmth of the garage, let's have a look what we've got inside the box. So before we get started, depending on what car you've got, this is for an E92, should work for an E90, E91, E93. Essentially, in the box is the kit to enable you to use Apple CarPlay on the original display inside the car, and you can switch back to your original new unit as well, which is awesome. And the reason I've held off ever changing mine is I just didn't want to compromise the audio quality. The Harman Kardon sound system in the E92 is fantastic, and that is one thing I really didn't want to compromise on, was the quality by going with an aftermarket unit. And this little beauty keeps it all fibre optic, so the quality will remain as the same. So before you order your kit, the first thing you need to find out is what iDrive you've got. So in mine, it's a 2011 LCI, which is Life Cycle Impulse, so a later model of the E92, and I need what's called the CIC drive. And the way you can confirm whether you've got a CIC drive is if you look at the iDrive controller knob, you'll be able to see on there that it's black in the center, chrome ring, and then a black ring. That confirms you have the later one. If you have an earlier one, which is all sort of brushed alley chrome, that will be the CCC iDrive system. So if you look on the website, there will be links to which model you need, but hopefully that clears up for what model you're going to need to order. With the kit all unboxed, it certainly doesn't look too daunting, famous last words. Now, the only thing that might be a little bit more complicated, which I'm going to try and cover in this video, is this cable here is designed if you have a CD changer in the boot. So not the one in the dash, it'll be a multi-changer in the boot. Essentially, if you do have one in the boot, you need to plug this into the loom to trick the system into thinking the CD changer is still in place, but it won't use it. It'll then use the Mr12Volt to run the system. But ultimately, in my car, on the back left-hand side, it doesn't have the multi-changer, which means we don't need to fit that, but potentially, and we're going to find out in this video, there have been cases of people needing to code them. So we will look into that later in the video, but obviously for the time being, let's get the dash apart and have a good look. Obviously, we've got all the harness that goes in between the original system. And we're going to go and get the dash apart now, and I'll show you as well what tools you're going to need for the job. So the tools you're going to need for the job, we've got the Mr12Volt unboxed and explained. You're going to need a T20 Torx bit, a PH2 screwdriver, aka crosshead, small little flathead, and some trim removal tools as well. Again, relatively standard stuff that you're going to find in most toolkits. Now, what I will say is prepare to have your hands shredded just a tad, because unfortunately I've got quite big hands, so it doesn't make it easy getting behind the unit and putting the Mr12Volt unit up the side of the glove box either. But we'll get into that in the video. Let's get underway. Using those trim tool removers, you can now see the center trim piece is almost ready to come out. There's two plugs underneath this which simply pop out, and you've got the start stop plug as well to remove, which I'll show now. Just take your time with this because you really don't want to break anything, because it's really going to ruin your day if you do, but it is pretty straightforward. pretty self-explanatory. These clips, you just press down on the top here and it allows these basically to roll over, and when they go all the way to the bottom, they'll pop out. This one's a little bit more fiddly. There are just 2 tabs either side there that need to be pressed, and I say you shouldn't need to force anything. It should all come out pretty nicely. With the fascia removed, we now have 4 crosshead screws to undo to allow us to remove the CD drive unit. With the main harness plug undone, you can now move on to the other connections. These ones are just held on with little tabs here. Once they're pressed down, they can simply be pulled out. With the footwell trim removed, we've got plenty of space up in this cavity for our Mr12Volt module to sit, and this will also help with pulling the cables through this corner as well, keeping it all out the way and looking factory finished in here. Next, we're going to install the fibre optic cable. You need to remove a couple of covers and remove the original from the unit's plug. So this is the original harness. This black and green on the side here is the one we're going to pop out, and there's essentially a little clip on there, which hopefully the GoPro will pick where my finger is. You press that in and that comes out of there. Now, I've not done a lot of stuff with fibre optic, in all honesty. I'm going to be very careful touching any of the ends because I don't want any fingerprints on there. They look like they're pretty recessed in there, but I would be cautious of that. So on this loom where we've got the longer side, that's the bit that's going to feed down and then out down here to the module, and then the shorter 2 plugs are going to stay in the car, center console even. I thought I'd go back into the workshop for this part because hopefully it'll make a little bit more sense than being crammed in the car. So in the kit we get this loom that goes in between the existing plug that goes into the sort of CD drive, iDrive system, and the new plug. So this is going to go into the back of the CD changer as per the original fitting. It's got the clip that will latch in there, and it hasn't got on this side the fibre optic plug that we're going to need. So bear with me. So on this side, this goes back into where the car loom is, and if you look in there, there's a blank spot, so there's nothing for the fibre optic loom. So on the original car loom, we need to unplug the fibre optic, put it in to this side, and then this side we're going to have to unplug this and connect it into here, and then the longest end goes in to the Mr12Volt. And on the Mr12Volt there is actually a little blanking plug in there you've got to pull out. So that's not the connection, it's just a protector for the fibre optic, which I can't do with one hand. But hopefully it'll make sense when we go into the car. For a second I did scratch my head and think, hang on, what's going on here? But it's simply because this side hasn't got an input for the fibre optic, that you just manually pull it out the plug. So a more detailed look, we obviously have the long end of the loom to go into the Mr12Volt system. We've got the first plug that's gone into the fibre optic there, and we've removed this little case from it. Now this, I believe, is going to be used now to go into this one. This little case will go into the other side, the shorter side, and then the plug will then go into the car. So you use this from the old connection that's gone into there. Plug it into there, and again the long side is purely for the Mr12Volt system. With the fibre optic side of the loom now ready to party, we're going to go back into the car and fit this into the loom, and that fibre optic line from the original loom into the shorter side of the plug. Now just quickly, on the other side of the loom, we've obviously got a USB connection. So if you've got an Apple lead or an Android lead, this is where your USB is going to go. So we're going to find a way to route this where it's going to be usable for me daily. I believe these are just signal lines for reverse cameras, which we're not going to worry about. We've got the headphone interface part here, which sort of, we've got a splitter, I think I've left it in the car, which we're going to have to plug in, which we're going to do now as well. And then we've got the original power plug that goes in to the Mr12Volt on the right hand side. With the plugs back in, I heard the drive power up. So the plan now is to put this all back in to the dash. Obviously, I'm going to have to put my hand up on the left side of the glove box, pull all this plug through because it wasn't there before and there is not a lot of room behind there. So I'd really stress at this point, just taking your time, because if you just force it all in there and you crimp or crush one of these fibre optic cables or pull one of the pins out the plug, you're going to be having a really bad day. So I'm going to open the passenger door and put my hand up in. As I'm pushing the unit in, I probably won't be able to get a great shot on camera, but we'll have a look. So I'm not having the most amount of fun at the moment, as you probably saw from that clip. Obviously we've got to be really careful with this, and that big connector block down the bottom, it's just proving very tight to get it all in there. I see how people have started to mark their hands up getting in there. It's certainly not fun, but yeah, let's carry on and see how we get on. Ah, man, that is tight, very tight. So I think we might have a solution. After absolutely annihilating my hands again, and as a cat owner, it's a familiar feeling I'm used to, I found a pocket just down there on the right, and it seems to have enough room for the multi-plug adapter to go in there. So I've wedged that into the corner. Got loads of room on the Fibre Optic. See if she'll go back in. This is definitely the worst part of the job, but like all things, I guess once you learn how to do it once, it'll take you a quarter of the time when you next do it. Yay! It goes in. And just like that, she's back in. Again, that was definitely the worst part of the job. And like I say, hopefully you saw in the video, it went back, didn't need any force, it sat there. Obviously you've got the cables behind it, so you're going to get a bit of bounce in it. But ultimately, as you saw in that little clip, I've put the connector block down there and I've tucked the Fibre Optic. There's enough on the right hand side. And obviously we've got all the loom down there on the left hand side that we can now connect to the control box. And then we've just got to route up and do the microphone. So yeah, that was pretty awful. Yeah, sorry for moaning about that, but that was definitely the worst part of the job. So let's put this all back together. At least the car is looking complete again. So we've still got to wire in the microphone. I've just grabbed the start stop button out of the trim just so I can plug it back in and check everything still works, because obviously before I go any further, if I've unplugged something or knocked something in there, it's all going to have to come back out again. So we'll do that now. Uh-oh, we have a problem. Well, we don't really have a bad problem, but I thought I'd take you guys on the journey as well so you know what's happened. So I plugged it back in, turned the ignition on, and I had no sound on the iDrive at all. It even came up with a warning message saying that there was an acoustic issue. I was like, oh no, what have I pinched? And big shout out to Niran. He was sent to me by Liam Biggs to just give him a quick bell, because he's the man putting the manuals together for these. And do you know what I've done? On the under tray that goes under the glove box, there's a fibre optic connection on there that I'd obviously just left unplugged, and ultimately that means the system doesn't work. So what you need to do is obviously put the car back to complete together, it's fine, but just for the testing purpose I didn't put that trim in, left the circuit open, and it didn't work. And the good news is the first time I connected it in, unfortunately it didn't work. It was something I thought, oh, yeah, I'm going to have to do the coding. And then the second time I powered it up, hit the CD button, and it works. So I don't want to say you don't need to code it, but I'm not the first one who hasn't needed coding on a 2011 CIC car. So yeah, let's put that all back together and I'll give you a run through on the system. With the foot trim removed again, with this thing causing me some headache earlier, it was like me pulling all the dash out, we can now put the Volt system up in the cavity. But before we do that, the final thing I need to fit is the microphone. Now, as those may have seen and will see at the end, I was actually running the Apple CarPlay without the USB. I've done it completely wireless, but we'll run through that more. But essentially you just need to connect it to Bluetooth and Wi-Fi and no cables at all, which is awesome. So you can keep your phone in your pocket and run Apple CarPlay. Obviously if you've got an old phone where the battery's dying, it might not be ideal. You might want to utilize this, but for me, I want it fully wireless.
So I had seen a video of someone undoing these and simply pulling the trim out, but it just didn't sound particularly nice, if I'm honest, and I certainly don't want to crack this. So as you saw, I've removed the two sun visor shields out, and now this all comes down, and you can get your finger behind there and press the clip, and that grill will then just come out. There's two little tabs, which I'll show you once it's down, that you need to press in. So as you can see on the front, these are the two prongs there and there. And obviously, like I say, you could potentially just lever it out on the plastic bars, but for 2 seconds to remove those other trims, I didn't want to break it. And that is our microphone there that we now need to unplug and put the sort of, I guess it's like a splitter in between it. So as you can see, I've tucked the cable in and we've got to here. Our next job is either remove this trim, or as I've seen on the Mr12Volt video, you can literally just tuck it in, run it all the way down, and then out the bottom and alongside the shield under the glove box. And then we've got to tuck all this away and job's a good one. So just a quick one, I've taped up the microphone just to stop it unclipping. I mean, it feels pretty solid, but as we're going to be pushing it up into the corner, tidied up that loom as well, and the loom on the back I've just taped up, so it's all organised. And there's just a little pocket up there, which hopefully the GoPro will capture, and I'm going to tuck it all up, and hopefully that's it. The only thing I have been advised by Niran today is if you're doing a lot of mirror playing, so mimicking your phone for films, etc., it may be worth mounting it somewhere with some more airflow, but for what I'm going to be using it for Apple CarPlay, this will be fine. But he's going to put together a cool guide. I'll link all that in the description when it's available. And yeah, that's it, guys. Chuffed to bits with it. Let's get the under tray on the passenger footwell back on, and this all tucked up, and that's a wrap. So we're out in the car now. As you can see, we have Apple CarPlay running. Now I'm actually recording off my phone on the fly this morning, so the phone is actually running this as well, so we'll see how well this works together. But let's go through a few of the questions. So firstly, do the steering wheel controls work? Well, I haven't taken a phone call yet, but what I can confirm is the volume and the skip track are all working as you would hope. Awesome. Another big one was, does the reversing signal sensors still work? So obviously car's running, put a foot on the brake, put it in reverse. Yes, it comes up. What I have discovered during playing is it doesn't come up for the forward sensor. So for argument's sake, you can see I've still got the parking distance sensor on, but we're in Apple CarPlay. So if you press that, we're not getting anything. So if you were, for example, to pull up to something like a brick wall and you thought, oh, I've got front parking sensors, I don't know how close I am,
in the Apple CarPlay menu, it doesn't seem to boot. But I was having a quick chat with Liam, and there might be a setting to adjust that, but we'll come back to that in the comments. So what the solution for now is, and which we're going to go back again, is if you hit menu, you actually come back to your original iDrive system, and then you can press the parking button and everything works as normal. That's worst case scenario. And then back to CD, and you're back on it. So yeah, essentially the CD button is going to be your control for the Apple CarPlay. If you really wanted to, you can go back to your menu, you can go back to your original nav. There is no reason that this system will stop you using all the original functions that are on the iDrive, which is perfect. But this brings us on to another one. So Bluetooth is not connected. The reason for that is I'm now Bluetooth connected to the Mr12Volt, and the Mr12Volt, turn that down because of copyright, the Mr12Volt. Okay, so annoyingly that didn't work, and the GoPro is now flickering away. As you can see, it's not really stabilizing on that screen. Hopefully we can still get a nice review, because unfortunately the iPhone, as soon as you obviously try to use it as a camera and then go into the audio features, it has a little hissy fit, so we can't use the iPhone's much better camera. So hopefully we can still function off this. Again, the flickering is just to do with the GoPro. I don't know why it does it. The iPhone seems to work its way around it. But anyway, on to other features. So we've mentioned the PDC, the parking sensors. We've mentioned steering wheel controls. When you connect Mr12Volt, you need to go into your settings and turn on your Wi-Fi, so it'll come up with CarPlay, and you also need to connect to it on Bluetooth. So we've got Mr12Volt there, and essentially when it's connected to Bluetooth and Wi-Fi, you can run the Apple CarPlay completely wirelessly. So that means there's no cables to plug in. Obviously if you've got an iPhone that your battery's dying, you're going to need to put it on a charger, but essentially everything works wirelessly, which I love. You just jump in the car and it boots up, which will show. So yeah, at the moment obviously the phone is on the passenger seat, the dash is there. Let's turn the car off, take the key out. That's everything shut down, lights come on. Let's see how quickly Apple CarPlay comes back on. There it is. So there were other people that were saying, is it laggy, is it slow to operate? No, not at all. It boots straight back up. If you have a song playing, it goes straight to it. If you had your Google Maps on there, that comes straight back on, which is awesome. The one thing that is not a problem, because you just can't change it, is the habit of wanting it to be touchscreen. Is, oh man, because you really obviously nowadays used to touching the screen, it's so fast. So you have to use the iDrive controller, and hopefully the camera will refresh there. But you can see you have to work your way, scroll through. I mean, it is pretty fast, it's not laggy, but the main three you're going to be using are these ones on the left hand side here. And so I'll show you. So if you go into Google Map or Apple Maps, you can see you've got a location there. And normally if you hit search, you think, oh god, I got to put a manual postcode in, but your voice control actually works really well because it's obviously using the microphone that we've rigged up. So if we hit voice control, Staines Cinema, simple as that. So now we're running straight away. You can even do that with postcodes. I've tried it, it works really well. And I'll say this is all just being recorded live off the GoPro. My maps is now running. We've got the full screen that works straight out of the box. And then obviously to scroll through your settings, you can see, hopefully it's moving there. As I'm scrolling the iDrive, it works its way around the outside and you can see things highlight en route, and you can go back again. If you want to search it manually, if you're driving, you can do. You've got a keypad there for postcodes. I mean, a bit long for me to be honest with you, but it works if you want to use it that way. And then you've got things like your Spotify as well, which you can get on here. Everything works. You get the video, the cover even, sorry, which is awesome because I've not had that on there. Obviously we've got the volume down again because Poxy copyright. You can pick up your messages. If you scroll down to this one at the bottom, you can see, press it twice, you've got like your original Apple CarPlay, and again you've got to scroll through it. So if you needed to get to your messages, if you wanted to go on to Waze as well, which is good, a lot of people in the UK use that because of traffic and obviously speed camera detection on there, and it's got a GPS speedo on there, and now it appears
up on your top left menu. You've got your phone battery, your phone signal. I mean, if you've used Apple CarPlay, this is probably going to be pretty run-of-the-mill stuff for you. It's not going to be anything new, but as you can see, it works fast, it works quickly. You can also go into the Mr12Volt unit, which is what I'm saying. You've got all your CarPlay, your Android Auto, mirroring, Bluetooth, all your settings, which you can play with here. Yeah, there's lots of stuff you can do on it. And like I say, I think the big thing for me is it still retains that perfect audio quality, which even if it wasn't for the copyright, I wouldn't be able to show you, because obviously you're not going to pick it up on a system like this. Unfortunately, with the cameras, you're not going to appreciate the full Harman Kardon system. But yeah, I've got to say, I absolutely love it. Really thrilled to bits with it. I'm just trying to think on the fly. I say it wasn't scripted. I've literally just pulled over in a car park to show you lot what it's like. But you can obviously use Apple Music. I mean, I can even use my work diary. We've got this thing called Service Mate on there, which does all the bookings for jobs I go to. I never take the M3, I've got a work van, but everything works like you'd want it to. Obviously you've got mirroring, so if you wanted to watch TV on your phone, you could do. To be honest with you, when I'm in the car, I'm driving, so it's not something I could see me ever wanting or using. It's Apple Maps and Spotify, which were the big things, and like I say, that's all there. Awesome. But yeah, I don't really know. I mean, obviously let me know in the comments if there's anything else you want to see. We'll do a video on it as well. That's not a problem, I can do that. And again, chuffed to bits with it. Massive thanks to Liam for getting this all out to us, obviously supplying it here in the UK, and he does ship worldwide as well if there's anyone else outside that wants a unit across Europe, America, you name it, he can do it. But yeah, absolutely thrilled to bits with it, and hopefully you can see there it's fast, it doesn't lag. Even when you switch the car off, get back in, everything seems to work. Again, with the controls, obviously like I said, you can go back to your main menu. Again, really fast, you've got everything there you had before. The difference now is you can't use the telephone on this because obviously you've disconnected the Bluetooth, you're on the CD. But again, if you hit CD, you're back into your Apple CarPlay, you can make your phone calls. It's, do you know what I mean? You've got your phone, I won't bring it up in case I've got it. But yeah, you hit that and you're in your phone book. And again, it's using all that original microphone. So yeah, apologies, it had to be shot on the GoPro. If there's anything else, I'll add an additional clip now for the video. But yeah, hope you enjoyed. If so, give us a like, and if you've got any questions, obviously put them in the comments, or any cool solutions or hacks that you've learnt using the kit, because I say I'm like 2 days into this now, so I really look forward to exploring what it's all about.